So this writing session was about almost 3 months, I'd say,
Day
right? 31st, 24th.
2.
And I kind of wanted to take an opportunity to just look at everything and review of everything that's happened so far. Because on the inside for me, a lot of shit's unraveled in the story. Obviously, the videos that I put out are some of the daily things that I think about and I feel like just kind of throwing out to people. You know, whether they're trying to write themselves or for whatever fucking reason enjoy watching shit like this. So it really hasn't been that long of a time since we began this on Halloween in 2023. But honestly, I mean, I look at my office, like how it slowly becomes more and more my own place. It's kind of how I was feeling about the book as well. It's like I'm slowly feeling more and more comfortable treading into it. Because for all those years, you know, we're making this place. We're trying to make this believable. We're making a fantasy story. And it's kind of scary to venture out into that great unknown and all these places that you've never been to or maybe you half thought about, you know, and like these realms that exist. And the more you go out there, the more you're going to find things of that just kind of confuse you or complicate things or make the story difficult because there's so many different moving parts that need your attention. And I found that to be the most difficult out of everything that I've been doing so far. I don't really have any advice how to get through that, but I do have a bit of a strange story as to how my eyes were finally open to this. And it kind of began a few days ago, and essentially I just got really sick and like very, very sick, like bedridden. And I was in bed for like 3 days, just horribly ill, But somehow in that time, my mind, like I gave myself 3 days to just to heal and relax. And out of that, my mind has just, I don't know how to explain it to you. It's like I was laying down the other day and I can picture things in my mind clearer, or memories seem a little bit clearer to me. And that's that main thing I wanted to say is like, it's all about giving yourself rest. So while I'm resting, I do want to take an opportunity to just talk about this story so far. Now, as I began, I had a general sense of what I was going to do with Eris and Nacum and their companions. But for both of their stories, I kind of veered off a little bit. From where they landed in book 1 to now into book 2, the story took a slight turn, especially with my character Nacum, and he went to a whole new realm that I was not ready for. But I was compelled to do it. And I treaded more and more and more, and I found this to be so fucking difficult as I was slowly trying to make this happen and make this work. And the way I chose to write it was 2 simultaneous characters, and I would, when it felt right to stop with this character's story, I went to the other one. Kind of like naturally having a like next chapter in a sense. I usually do that in real time with the draft. Is how I choose how to go to the next chapters and shit. This one was difficult just because of I didn't know what was going on, but it was when I was laying in bed and sick yesterday, I realized I know what to do with my one character named Eris. And like how his story ended. I don't know if you remember me talking like I don't know what to do. He's at this pivotal fucking scene where he's being talked to by these guys, and I kept comparing it to the Council of Elrond shit. Well, essentially, I think I know how to. I just got rid of that whole thing, and I found a whole new character that helps him, and honestly becomes his mentor, and we can go forward. But what ended up happening too was the plot changed. And I had to go back in book 1 and just change the ending little dialogue line that happens because the hero is kind of confronted right at the end of the book at the climax for his objective. Like, hey, you need to do this. I just had to change that in book 1. Now in book 2, that becomes his objective. It just kind of made sense to me. And the moral I take from that is sometimes when you're doing this shit, your story, you can write to a certain point And you can feel good or bad about it, but sometimes it doesn't mean it's right. And you might have to just go back and delete the whole thing. And I've done that so many times that I'm okay with it. I'm okay with saying, like, this whole section's got to go. We can't have this happening anymore. That's fine. Because what it does is, not only did you work out that muscle, but you explored that place, and you were able to go forward from that with a little bit of knowledge of you just honed your skill. And you also know a little bit about that place if you ever have to go to it again, or some other character might need it. And then, I mean, I don't know, just experience gained. But for me, it's like, when you sit down and someone's like, okay, you need to write a book. That's what you need to do. Just write a story. It can be so debilitating to say, like, I don't fucking know what to do. I don't know what you mean by write a story. Like, I don't know where to go with him. And my problem for me has always been, it takes me a long fucking time to realize shit. It just always has been that way. For me, it'll be an epiphany moment. To a normal person, they're like, that's day one shit, you should have known it. And I just found that when it comes to exploring the character through their worlds, I was just really exploring myself. And that's what I chose to do when it came to the story. I'm like, if this character is a representation of me in some sense, then I need to explore my own mind just as deeply as he's exploring this place. And so of late, there's been a lot of times where I'm doing research and I'm studying videos, or I'm reading books, just of various things, like Baton, if I remember telling you about that, or other historical books, or whatever the fuck it may be, some Irish legend, watching videos of the other world, and just trying to bask myself in what all this could be. That's my only goal that I've been doing of late, to try to make sense of what everything is, but at the same time staying true and being honest with the original kind of backstory lore that we made, me and Jacob and Kevin. Like, I'm always keeping in mind the idea of there's a world out here that has its own mythology, has its own legends, its own stories, heroes and villains and wars and all that shit. And I have to keep honest with it. But I always found it difficult with my characters to move through this world, just like I always found it difficult for myself to move into this world. It's not exactly easy. But the more you start to explore that, the more you start to see who you are in this world. And not only that, it'll enable you to finally make the change for yourself as well. Like, this process of this writing series, of writing this second book, I wouldn't say it's been one of the hardest things I've ever done, but it has been the most enlightening things that I've ever done, because it really instilled in me the fact that I want to be a writer. I didn't think I wanted to for so long, or I fought it, and I just like, no, I don't want to be a writer, that's faggy, or whatever the hell I said. And I would fight it for so long, and now I'm like, no, I think I actually want to do this. And the fact that I'm on vacation right now for a week and I'm not at work, I just feel so much better when I only have this book to work with and not anything else. I think that's marvelous. I think that's a life that I want to live. And so it's really pushing me to try to get this book out there. And finish book 2 and go to the rewrite and do the other rewrite, and hone that book, work on book 3, and then I can get these books out there, because I really think, man, they're good. And there's just, I think they're great, man. I think they're up there with Star Wars and Lord of the Rings. I'm going to be honest. And that's not just because I'm doing it. It's because of the guys that helped me along the way. I think this story, this legend, this mythology is borrowing from our old stories that we used to tell each other as, like our ancestors around the campfire. And that's always kind of been my goal slowly in the back of my mind, is I wanted to have a story that we could tell each other, like a mythology, that down the line, when shit hits the fan and civilization crumbles and this story is left over, I wanted to kind of stand the test of time and define that era. and say, like, this is a mythology that says a lot about that time and place, according to these people, instead of finding whatever else you might find of this modern era. That's my major goal for this, and I really hope that I'm doing justice to that idea, and I don't think that's too ambitious to say. Honestly, I don't think it's too crazy because, you know, listen, I've been writing this book since 2012. I think the first draft began 2013 of book 1, but I've been at this shit for quite a while. And I've been deep into it. And for me, I kind of walked away from Star Wars, I walked away from Lord of the Rings, and this is my everything. And honestly, I'm always trying to top those two anyway, and I just look at this and say, I really think this is fantastic. I think this is going to be amazing. And the day people start reading it and they start plucking out all those little things I hid inside of it, all those tiny, tiny little details, what do you want to call them, Easter eggs, or metaphors, or allegories, or just tiny little nuggets of knowledge and shit like that. Like, I'm excited for people to tear this apart and dive deep into it and realize what it might mirror. Like, oh my God, this scene mirrors this, and that's because of, in this mythology, in the 1200s, and the whales, you know, like shit like that. People will be kind of shocked to see how honest it is to our world. You know what I mean? It was made in a guy's office in solitude, but it stays true with keeping the story of our world and the story of myself within it. And I think for my part, I'm doing the best I can, and I really hope at the end of the day when I finish this that people will enjoy it as much as I have making it.